doing its best to keep up with mom. So you may hear some other noises too. You'll hear people shuffling around. You'll hear the planes taking off. There's a lot of people around me. I'm on the lower river platform where the webcams are located right now. So you'll hear other people talking and conversing besides just my voice. Ranger Roy's here next to me, but he's working hard trying to get some of the equipment set up and working right now, making sure the sound is a-okay.
The bears get away. Where did they go, Mike?
They're going to be right on the other side of the people canoeing.
And the canoe is not that close to them. Like it looks like it is on the camera.
Yeah, it looks like they're right on top of them, but they're probably the bears could be significantly far out into the lake from our perspective. Far out into the lake from our perspective.
Still need to get this level. The real video tripod has a leveler on it. I got bubble levels all over it, but I need the ability to level the base as opposed to the three legs. It's a little harder to do. You have your binoculars?
I do have my binoculars, yeah. Well, I think these are mostly mallards out there right now. If you're, I don't know.
I'm on them.
Oh, you're on them now? Okay.
I'm going to pull up Explorer and make sure they know we're doing this right now.
Okay.
People on there. They refresh, they might be able to hear us. But they may already know. We may get here and they may be saying, oh, yeah.
We've heard you for 20 minutes.
Oh, wow, the aircraft noise really steps over all the other audio.
Okay,
So
well that's
they're
good to know.
hearing us.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for putting up with our bumbling, everybody. We're trying to do our best to get ready for tomorrow. And I think the birds that you're looking at out there are one of the more common ducks that you see, and those are mallards. They're pretty common all across North America, but most of those birds out there are newly hatched birds. Newly hatched by, what I mean is they were hatched in the back in June. So they're fully fledged now and they have all their feathers and many of them are flying. But you never really know what's going to show up around the Brooks River here. I've seen birds that accidentally showed up from Asia here. There's a white wagtail that showed up my first summer here. And there's a whole bunch of migrating birds from all over North America can show up here. So you just have to sort of pay attention. We're back on Holly and Cub now? Yeah. So she's a pretty recognizable bear. I know a lot of you on the webcams can recognize her very easily because she's very blonde. She has a single spring cub too. So, that helps you narrow down the possibilities when you're trying to identify her. I was telling some other folks that were here on the platform with me just a few moments ago that unlike many females, she does not park her cubs on the shore and say, stay here while I go fish. She tends to just let the thing follow, and the thing chooses to follow as well. So you'll see it trying to keep up with mom out there. It's a lot of hard work for a spring cub to keep up, and that's a first-year cub that she has out there with it. So it's working really hard to stay with mom as close as possible. And it will often try to get on her back. So it will try to hitch a ride every once in a while, which is in some ways the maybe the easiest ride that the cub can get. It's also quite cute in some ways.
For my iPhone. Couldn't find it. Wrong pocket. You want to tell them about the family tree?
Platform 414.
Yeah, while we're looking at Holly and Cub, one of the interesting things about this bear is that she's had a couple other litters that we know about here. The last cub that she ended up weaning, she kicked out, seems like in the spring of 2008, and that bear is now known as number 89. He's nicknamed Backpack, and we see him up at the falls. We see him down here at the mouth of the river occasionally. So he's a big adult male, getting bigger. He's not as big as he's going to get. He still has a lot of growing to do, but we definitely see him up at Brooks Falls quite often.
The cub running. You'll notice that this camera isn't as close. It doesn't have as strong a telephoto lens as the normal webcam does. So we're not going to be able to get the close shots like we have here, like we've been getting with the lower river cam. But at least it's not jiggling right now. And as we said, we're testing this equipment for tomorrow's chat.
The area that she's walking on right now, we've nicknamed the Spit. That's just a spit of gravel that goes out to the lake. It's an area that bears frequently patrol because it's surrounded on three sides by water. So just a narrow spit of gravel where oftentimes they'll find salmon washed up against the shore. Excuse me. In September, that area is even more heavily frequented by bears. And she's doing kind of a September thing right now, probably because she has that young cub. Last year, she was up at Brooks Falls much more often. I haven't seen her visit Brooks Falls at all this year. So bears have the ability to modify their behavior, modify their uses of certain areas, depending on the situation. So females with older cubs are maybe more likely to visit Brooks Falls. Some females with cubs, doesn't matter what their age are, just avoid it completely. Holly seems to, well, go up to the falls, maybe when she's only single. It's been so long, though, since she's last had a cub, that I'll be curious to see if she's able to keep this cub next year, whether or not she visits Brooks Falls. And I'm going to stop talking while the plane is taking off.
I can hear you fine.
Can you still hear? Okay.
I toned down the other microphone.
Okay.
The ambient mic.
So if you're going to continue to watch the cams into September, you'll see a lot of bears do this. That's going to be the primary fishing technique in September, basically just snorkeling through the river. And they're looking for anything that really can't swim away. There's a lot of fish in the water down at the mouth of the Brooks River, but the bears can't really catch them very easily just because they can swim away. The salmon, that is. The salmon can swim away so easily. So right now she's looking under the water and she's just looking for any dead or dying fish that are sitting on the bottom of the stream. Yeah, and our bridge is already closed right now because she's approaching. Yeah. You can see how easily Mom is moving through the water right now, but the cub is trailing far behind. You know that because the cub is, and both Mom and cub are swimming upstream, but it's of course much harder for that little tyke to get upriver. So spring cubs, you know, they expend much more energy than Mom when they're searching for food. At this cub's age, it's likely just still getting most of its nutrition from her, though. So she's probably nursing it quite often, maybe multiple times per day.
Last night we watched on the cam Holly catch a fish and pretty much bit it in half, and he carried half of it around, just strutting around with it. Looked like he wasn't quite sure what to do with it, and then he dropped it and she came over and ate it.
But by the end of the summer, you'll see them greedily eating up salmon from mom. And a lot of times, in most situations, mom's not really going to take fish back to the cub. They don't really share it with their offspring. It's up to the cub to be assertive and try to get the fish from mom if it wants it. Some cubs do that and others don't. They'll be more and more likely to do that as they grow. So right now, probably still gaining most of its calories from mother's milk. Next year, it'll probably be mostly from other food sources. But they'll continue to nurse as long as they're with their mother. And I've seen big 2.5-year-old cubs nurse, and the cubs can be almost as big as mom. So at that point in time, it's probably not so much that the cub needs nutrition from mom at 2.5 years of age, but it may be just more of a bonding thing. And she's just turned around and now she's swimming out towards the mouth of the river. When you see her sort of run through the water, like she's doing right now, she's probably seeing a fish. A lot of times the fish down here at the mouth of the river have fungus growing on them. Sometimes they end up getting injured when they're migrating into fresh water. Maybe they get caught in a fishing net or something like that and they escape. That rubs off a lot of their protective slime that they have on them, rubs off their skin. And fungal infections can set in very easily on the salmon because the salmon are not focused on healing their bodies once they re-enter fresh water. They're focused on simply migrating and finding the right place to spawn. So the fish that have fungal spots on them are actually easier, it seems like, for the bears to see, because we don't really see bears target individual fish when they're running through the water like that, unless it seems like that fish has a white fungus spot on it. Just happens to make it a little bit more easy for it to find. Oh yeah, she did catch a fish.
I can't tell if it has a fungus head or not.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little too far away for me to look at my binoculars and see. The salmon isn't certainly like flopping around in that last effort to escape. So maybe it was a pretty weakened fish. So I think we'll get an example here in just a moment of how much that cub wants that fish. We'll see. Or if 435 will even give it the opportunity. And it may go into the woods out of our line of sight. I don't know if it's going to eat it on the shore. Or looks like she's going to take it to a more secluded spot. I'm going to just watch the people and see where the people are looking. Roy, if it's okay with you, I might turn my radio on, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll give her, because they'll be talking about where the bears happen to be. So I'm going to turn my radio on and I'm going to stop talking myself. And you'll hear a beep, and then you'll be hearing some radio traffic about where the bears happen to be and get a little insight into how we manage people here at Brooks Camp.
Holly and Cub.
Where are they?
She's right at tree line between Big Spruce and looks like she's just off Bear Trail there at tree line near the beach, but close as well to Camp Trail.
Copy, thank you.
421. Corner 421.
Corner.
Sorry, just wanted to make sure you heard she's stationary and eating the fish, so if the people needed to move away from her over the bridge,
Copy, yeah, those that don't have lights went across the bridge.
I'm not sure if you were to hear that on the cams, but we had a ranger encouraging some people to walk on our floating bridge. Our floating bridge is not a safe wildlife viewing platform, so we often don't want to be on the bridge when bears are close. We also don't want to be on the bridge when bears are close, not just for safety considerations, but also to make sure that we're giving bears access to the river, making sure that they are not impeded by our mere presence on the bridge. because some bears will not swim near the bridge on the webcams. But Mount Katolanat is one of the more beautiful mountains that we have in the area. Definitely not completely glacially scoured. We didn't have glaciers override Mount Katolanat during the last ice age, but definitely carved on its sides by glaciers. A very beautiful mountain. And now 435 Holly and her cover back.
From lagoon to gravel bar.
Copy.
I'm back out here at the beach with eyes on her as well.
There was a question about a statement you made about Holly's family tree, and you might need to clarify the years of the litters.
Oh, sure.
That there wasn't one last year that was lost.
Yeah, there were. So last time, let's see if I can remember correctly. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head.
2006 backpack was a yearling.
A spring cub. Yep. Yeah. So 2006, that was number 89 backpack's first summer. So he was just a little spring cub at that time, just the same size as what you're seeing on the cam right now. She raised him through his second summer, and then we saw that bear, number 89, in the summer of 2009, on his own here at Brooks Camp, and we followed him. Excuse me, 2008.
2007 with the injured leg.
Yeah. So in 2007, that was my first summer here at Brooks Camp. She came back with that yearling cub, now number 89, and the yearling cub had what looked like a very severe leg injury. It wouldn't put any weight on its front right paw, and it just limped around. And it was a small yearling too, and it just limped around for months. By the fall, however, it had completely healed. And when you see that bear walking around right now, you would have no idea that it was injured as a spring cub. So that was a lesson for me, and I talk about this kind of a lot on the webcams, and I refer back to number 89's story quite a lot. That was a lesson to me just about how resilient and tough these animals are. We had a lot of people here at Brooks Camp, of course, that were visiting, and they were very sympathetic to the animal's needs. People wanted us to give it veterinary attention. They wanted us, some people actually just thought we should euthanize it and just put it out of its misery. But, you know, national parks not only protect the really pretty things about nature, but they also protect the hard things that are watched too. And here at Katmai, we're really trying to preserve natural processes. So we let nature take its course, and it's a good thing that we did, because number 89 right now is a big adult male fishing up at Brooks Falls, living the life of a wild bear, instead of, you know, maybe living in a captive facility somewhere, or perhaps dead if we were to happen to euthanize it. So when you hear about the abandoned yearling of 402, the odds are, admittedly, the odds are against it. But that abandoned yearling still has a chance, and I'm not going to, get out its death certificate quite yet. And the
big news.
Yeah. So the yearling, the abandoned yearling. Now
the sub-adult, the cub adult, the whatever we're calling it.
It's a very young sub-adult. Actually caught a fish today just down near Brooks Lodge. So it is getting fish, and that's a good sign for it. As the summer progresses into fall, the fish are just going to get easier and easier and easier to catch as more and more salmon spawn and they die. So if it can make it through this time period when less salmon are actually available and easy to catch, then it's much more likely to make it into the den in this fall.
One of the comments says we lost you, so let me see if we're still live here.
Okay, so we're just going to do a sound check here, everybody, if you can still hear me.
No, it's still going live at our end.
Okay. So she's continued.
Off, so, yeah. Okay. No, maybe they were referring to something else, but anyway, I just thought maybe our video cut out.
And then it's to sort of continue, since 435 is the only bear that we can see right now.
And barely at that.
Yeah, and to sort of continue her life story and her reproductive history. So she had number 89 in 2006 as a spring cub. It came back with an injured leg in 2007. She weaned him in the spring of 2008, and she was single that year. And then in 2000, was it 2009 really, or
2009.
2009, she came back with a single spring cub again, and she ended up losing that cub. We know how she lost it, and we rarely know how bears lose cubs, but it was attacked by another bear, a very dominant male that's along the Brooks River here, number 814, and that happened just upstream of the bridge. And
that death was caught on video by a couple of off-duty park rangers
and it's now
that were at the platform, and you can see it in the park film. I know some people will be upset when they see it on the park film, but trust me, it's not a gory death. But what you see is Holly making an attempt at protecting her cub, and then realizing that it's a lost cause, and then doing what's right for her and right for the survival of her family lineage, which is to back off and live again another day to have cubs. And that's what she did. With it took a few years, but she's back now with this new spring cub.
So yeah, it's been a few years in between. So four summers really in between that one that she lost and this one that we have right here. It seems like raising a cub sometimes can be so physically taxing that they need several years in between litters. Not always the case. Sometimes they have one, they're just single for one summer before they have more offspring. But a lot of times it seems like they need more than one summer. And then the other consideration is that we just don't know if they have cubs and they lose them by the time they get to Brooks Camp here. So we know an awful lot about our bears when they're here at Brooks Camp. But when they're out in the rest of Katmai and the rest of Alaska, we just have no idea really about what they happen to be doing. Now we have another bear that's swimming downstream near the bridge, and that's number 868, and he's an adult male. He's one of the few adult males that sort of frequents this area down here. Most of the other adult males don't really show a high level of habituation to the presence of people, and they tend to avoid areas near the bridge and near the lodge at Brooks Camp just because of the high levels of people. But this is one of the bears that will frequent this area here. So he's a big guy, but again, certainly not the biggest that we have around here. Not particularly dominant either. He seems to be displaced by most other adult males up at Brooks Falls. That could be partly because of his disposition. It could be partly because of his age. Maybe he still has some growing to do. But he was also suspected to be raised as a cub in this area. So if you hear Roy and I throw around the names of the Wayne brothers, there was a litter before my time here. Roy, I don't know if did you see the Wayne brothers?
Remember them.
Okay.
Yeah. Quick interjection here. If it swims under the bridge, it's possible it could come up by the underwater camera, and I'm not sure if that's running right now or not. But if it's live, he may come up right by it, and you might be able to see him. But yeah, I remember him and his brother, completely inseparable bears, always seen together, and we couldn't really tell them apart, and so they ended up just getting the same nickname, Wayne brother.
Now, interestingly enough, it's pretty easy to tell them apart. They can both be fishing up at Brooks Falls, but 868 is much blonder than his sibling, and his sibling is number 83. 83 is darker, 83 is more dominant, 83 is more scarred up than his sibling. So 868 tends to get into less confrontations. He's more likely just to yield space to other bears compared to 83. And I've actually seen 868's brother push him out of preferred fishing spots. Sometimes 868's been in the jacuzzi, for example, up at Brooks Falls, and 83 wants to fish there and says, "Look, listen, brother, I'm not going to give you any breaks. I need this spot, and I need it now." So he'll just move right in and push 868 out of the way. So, and it looks like 868 did catch a fish over there, but he's facing away from us, so we can't really see. Those poles you see on the bridge, those are augured into the stream bottom to keep the bridge in place. There's also cables that are anchored to the stream bottom as well. The river, when things are calm like this, the bridge isn't going to go anywhere. But when we get really strong winds off of Naknek Lake, and the strongest winds that we get in this area, they can blow from any direction, but typically the strongest winds we get here come out of the east, and that just blows straight across the lake. So we have a lot of fetch out there on Naknek Lake coming to Brooks Camp here, so we can get significant waves, sometimes 3 feet high, crashing into the beach here, and that can really wreak havoc on the bridge. So it has to be well anchored, and that's why there's those poles on the bridge that you see, and it tends to interfere with bear viewing a little bit, but it keeps the bridge in place.
People have asked why they're so tall. Did you?
I didn't explain that. No,
they're so tall because this is just purely logistical. It's difficult to get metal out in the bush, and so rather than order a bunch of short pieces of metal that we have to cut and put in here, they go ahead and they order these full-length pipes. I think it's well casing pipe, and if it gets bent by a bear or by the weather or something, they can keep using it. Just cut off the bent part and just keep using it, and that's why they're all different heights, because over the years some of them have been damaged and we've had to cut off the damaged part. So photographers often ask why we don't trim them, because they're ruining their shots, and that's why, because we can get a lot of use out of a long piece of pipe if we only have to cut off a few feet of it.
Yeah, you may see them get shorter and shorter over the next couple of years, and then we'll put some new ones in, and then they'll be 6 feet higher than they are right now.
So the bear crossed under the bridge, and it was not near the underwater camera, so you didn't miss anything. It was too far to the other side. There was a person. They wanted to hear it again, that 402's recently abandoned subadult did catch a fish.
It did, yes.
So their ears can't believe it.
Yeah, and there is a person who's kind of walking along the shoreline. You'll see her come into view. She may be unaware of the bear swimming downstream. And again, it's not necessarily like an emergency. 868 probably is just going to swim by. But we want to make sure that we're giving bears space. So anytime that you're here at Brooks Camp and you're coming to visit in the future, you want to make sure that you always keep your head on a swivel. You don't end up, getting too focused in any one direction, because
this person's very focused. So.
Yeah, she's probably focused on Holly and Cub on the
now she sees it.
And she's probably a sufficient distance away from, according to our regulations. So our regulations here at Brooks Camp it's basically 50 yards, 46 meters if you're from overseas, or elsewhere in North America too, I guess. If you're from out of the United States.
Part of the modern world, it's 46 meters.
46 meters. That's the minimum distance to keep between yourself and bears. But she did the right thing. Once she saw the bear, she ended up backing off. So here at Brooks Camp, again, when you're close to a bear, it's not always, an emergency situation. You don't have to think about the bear, the bear's going to eat me or something like that. They can be very defensive around you. So you want to give bears space for safety considerations, but you also want to give bears space to make sure that you're not displacing them from their food resources in the river here.
For a long time cam watchers, and this is Roy, I'm not the microphone, so I sort of have to lean into mic, otherwise I sound really far away. The camera, the position I'm shooting from right now is directly above the lower river cam east. So for people that watched it last summer and into the fall, this was probably your primary camera and the one you really got to love. So that's why we picked this spot right now as a way to test it. Also, we were hoping to get some good shots of Holly and cubs, and maybe the other unknown female and cubs will show up.
Yeah, yesterday was kind of an exciting day. We actually had a new family group show up, and I didn't quite recognize her. So I'm not sure what bear that is. Could be a whole new bear. Again, there's over 2,000 bears in Katmai. Last population estimate was 2,200, give or take, 80 bears or so on either side of that. And it's not uncommon to have new bears, fully mature adults, just show up here that we've never seen before. So it's possible that the bear with the two very small spring cubs that showed up yesterday is a new bear. It's also quite likely, though, that she is just a female that I don't know very well and I didn't recognize immediately. So it looks like we're 435 Holly is
We've got a
moved
bear coming
kind of off
behind
at the
us
end of the spit.
here.
Okay.
And I can't move the camera because you can explain that to them.
Yeah. So the camera's sort of set up in a corner right now. We have it set on a tripod, so it's a little hard to move from spot to spot. But I think this other bear that's coming from upstream will be swimming around towards the bridge in just a moment, so we might be able to see that.
Mike, what's
Yes.
402's cub adult's number?
So the abandoned yearling that formerly belonged to 402 does not have a number right now. When it's seen in monitoring sessions by our bear monitor here, and they're the ones that collect a lot of the detailed information about these individual bears here. When it's seen in those monitoring sessions, it will receive a number, but it hasn't been assigned one yet, and it may not be assigned one until the fall. So when Leslie, who's our bear monitor now, gets back into King Salmon in the winter time, or excuse me, in the fall in October, and she sits down with all her data, then maybe she'll assign it a number, but she hasn't done so yet. So that's just kind of the way that she's been organizing things. She's been keeping track of it. She knows which one it is, and we'll likely give it a number if it's not reunited with number 402, which seems very unlikely now. But there are documented cases of cubs being separated from their mothers for a week, sometimes two, at least in one study that was documented to happen before they happened to be reunited. But it seems fairly unlikely at this time that that's going to happen.
And this one's down below here.
Yeah, so we have a bear just kind of walking on the grass right in front of us here. And we had some shorebirds fly by. This is the migration period for shorebirds. They come and go faster than any other type of bird from Alaska here.
Oops. And I probably just unleveled the tripod when I kicked it.
So that was Roy. Yeah, if you saw the cam shake, that was Roy's fault. You can blame it on him. This bear down here is either a young adult or an older subadult bear. And if you're not familiar with that term, we've thrown that term out a bunch today, sub-adult. Those are really the teenagers of the bear world. They're independent of their parent, but they're still learning their ways in the bear world. They're still establishing their home ranges. They're still learning where to fish, where to find food. And they're bears that can be anywhere from, generally, 2.5 to 5.5 years old. But they could be younger than that too. Again, the definition of a subadult is really a sexually immature bear that's independent of its mother. So that 1.5-year-old yearling that's running around that did belong to 402, that technically by definition is a subadult bear. And they become adults when they become sexually mature. Like in humans, however, that doesn't happen at a set age. So, but it's around 5 years of age, 5 or 6 years of age.
If you've wondered what it's like to visit Brooks Camp and watch bears from the platform, this is probably a pretty good example of it right now. You've got a ranger here on the bear viewing area. People are asking questions. Bears are just wandering in front of you, behind you, in every direction. And we just sort of have conversations with people all day long about bears.
Yeah, it's actually kind of remarkable. I love working on the wildlife viewing platform. I just get to sit up here and watch bears all day and then talk to people about bears. There's also a lot of other stuff going on too when there aren't bears around. There's birds to watch. Just the scenery is nice to take in. And there are times up here where it's not so fun when the wind is blowing 40 miles an hour off of the lake and it's raining and you've been out here and you maybe didn't wear enough layers and you're starting to get cold and you shiver, then that's maybe not so enjoyable. But in almost all cases, I would, if I could work anywhere at Brooks Camp and just at one spot, it probably would be on this platform right now. So something in the water caught that bear's attention. And again, that's fairly typical of the behavior you see down here at the Brooks River. Even if you see people on the far side of the river and you see bears sort of trotting like that, the bear's likely not reacting to the people. It's probably just reacting to fish in the water. We have Holly and Cub back on the spit out here. So we're going to turn our attention away from the bear that was fishing and back to Holly and Cub.
And you can see that there is a visitor out there wandering around on the spit with Holly and Cub. We would like for people to stay 50 yards away from them, and he may have found himself out on the spit and have his escape route blocked, if you will, by Holly and Cubs. We'll see if he keeps trying to position himself in a spot where he can get close to them.
Yeah, a lot of times people will ask, well, can I go out there? And they'll ask specifically about that spot where the family is right now. And I'll say, well, you can. However, it's probably not a good idea. It's not a good idea because you often do get trapped in between the water and bears. And in most situations at Brooks Camp here, you just need to move away from the animals. That's oftentimes the safest thing to do. Sometimes people, though, aren't willing to get their feet wet. So at this time of the year, I do not go out on that spit of gravel. I do that in the springtime. I might do it in August when there's not a lot of bears around here. But certain times of the year, like July, and also in July and also in September, that's kind of a no man's land, in my opinion. And you might be able to see behind Holly and Cub out there the other bear that was swimming in the mouth of the river. And the Cub just gave those ducks a little bit of a chase, just a playful one. Yeah. Many times out here at Brooks Camp, Roy and I, when we're talking to the public, or even when we're talking to people on the webcams, we're talking about the bears as individuals. And I think that's kind of an important aspect to consider about these animals, that they all are very different. Each one of them has different tolerances for people. Some are very playful, like that Cub. Some litters, though, are very nervous. You'll sometimes see mom with her cubs, and they are very, very nervous. And you won't see the Cubs sort of running after ducks like that. I think, for example, 402's litter last year up at Brooks Falls, you might remember her. She had 3 cubs last year, 3 spring cubs, and she just had that 1 yearling this year. But when they were up at Brooks Falls, they were very, very nervous.
Is that him eating the fish? Okay, I don't know that this will work, but I'm going to try to put a picture of 402's cub eating a fish in front. I don't know if it'll focus.
I'll download it to my kind of Android.
Okay, thanks.
But
There he is. There's 402's recently emancipated cub with a fish on the trail to the campground just an hour or so ago. So this is the first time I've seen it too. I'm astonished at the size of the fish that he managed to drag in. But anyway, good for him. This is a good sign that he is now able to at least catch some fish and take care of himself. And he was, after this one was finished, as I understand it, looking for more. So that's pretty cool. This was taken by Sherry, who, I don't know if I can swing the camera around. You took this one, right? Because it's on your phone? Yeah. Sherry's our bear biologist out here.
Say hello.
Hello.
I'm not on her yet.
Okay.
There she is.
Hello.
So that was pretty cool that you saw that, huh?
Yes, it ran out into the water and came back with this big fish, and then I quickly backed out of the way, and it ran down the campground trail and tried to take a picture. And that's as far as my iPhone would zoom.
How big was the fish?
It was pretty good size, probably 7-8 pounds. So it was just dragging it.
That's great. So she said she will She said she'll post give the picture to Mike later, so maybe tomorrow. I think you're off today now, right? You're heading home. So maybe tomorrow we'll have that posted online so you can get a better view of it. But there was the cheer heard around the world when we all heard it caught a fish.
Yes.
And I can't believe Mike wasn't going to tell you. I think he just forgot.
I just forgot. Sorry. We don't keep
So
secrets
used to
here,
saying
but-
bad news. Yeah, no, it hasn't caught a fish yet. So thank you, Sherry,
All right.
for that.
Thanks,
And actually,
guys.
I think it looked okay on there. I think
Okay.
it's pretty clear. So let's get back out to real bears instead of photos of bears.
Yeah, you can look at photos of bears anytime you want, just by Googling them. But we'll show you some live bears right now.
That makes noise when you twirl it like that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. In many ways, I'm quite an amateur at this business, so you'll have to excuse my bumbling. But a lot of times in the bears world, there's a lot of eating, but there's also a lot of sitting down too.
Go Otis.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard Roy explain, but go Otis.
Sit, eat.
Yeah, sit and eat. Bears are very good at practicing energy economics. So they're looking to maximize their profit and calories with the least amount of expenditures. So they can't be in the red. They need to make a huge profit in calories before they go to the den in the fall. And that's why you often see them moving slowly. It's not that they can't move fast. They can move extremely fast. But they don't want to expend extra energy when it's not necessary.
You can turn the mic up, because this is going to get interesting.
Oh, yeah, turn the radio up, you mean?
Yeah, the radio.
Okay.
Because if she goes to the corner,
Yeah.
and it's just,
So yeah, I'm going to stop talking to everybody for a while. Again, you're going to hear people shuffling on the platform up here. You may hear some people talking. That's okay. But I'm going to turn my radio back on so you can hear some of the different things that are going on.
Bears continuing to head downriver is in
pretty
between Big Island and the bridge. Copy.
Sorry, that was too loud.
so the, yeah, you can clip it on.
Ollie and Cub are in the mouth, swimming in the direction of the gravel bar. Copy. I got all my group standing up. We may move back as she approaches. Copy.
I'm on the group of people on the corner so they can see the relationship.
Okay.
You might tell them what is that really quiet.
Yeah. So Roy's looking at people on the corner on the other side of the river. Now he's kind of focusing on Holly and Cub as she swims in that direction. There's a ranger with that group of people on the corner. You just heard her call out on the radio.
We've got this bear just upriver of the bridge, headed downriver, and Mom and Cub approaching the gravel bar in a snorkel fashion. You're going halfway to Bear Trail.
Yeah. So